These busts were primed with Vallejo's matte black primer and thinned with airbrush thinner. The busts were printed from free STL files available on Colts3D.com under the title Blue Bunny. After the primer is dried, I went ahead and varnished the model using Tesser's Dull Coat Gloss Varnish and let this dry as well. Most of the work for these busts will be done with Golden's High Flow acrylics, and I start with an anti-zenithal spray of violet to act as my darker shadows. I follow this up with a zenithal spray of magenta, but honestly I could have skipped this. The idea would have been that the magenta would have added a little warmth to the flesh tones that I would build up over it, but the inks I have are not transparent, and ultimately this magenta will be completely hidden. Moving on to the first ink, I begin spraying Burnt Umber from a downwards angle. My aim is for a dark skin tone for both of these ladies, and Burnt Umber with violet shadows should be a good start. The first highlight is done with an equal mix of Burnt Umber and Peachy Pink as I spray this over about 60 to 80%, wanting to leave some of the violet and the Burnt Umber showing. My hope was that I would add this last highlight and call it a day for the flesh, but I quickly noticed several issues. The first being, with this latest highlight, the flesh was beginning to look more lighter than the darker tone I had envisioned, and more importantly, my overspray from the last two highlights have pretty much decimated all of the shadows. I returned to some of the previous steps, slowly darkening down the flesh tone, re-adding the shadows, re-adding highlights again. As always, the colors I used will be displayed in a spreadsheet excerpt at the end of this video, and you'll see the back and forth approach that I took. I stopped at this point to let the bust dry, and then I returned the next day. With the acrylic paint fully dried, I begin masking off the flesh with Silly Putty so that I can safely paint the bustier without ruining all of the flesh work done up to this point. And of course during this process I dropped one of the busts, severing the ears and the head at the neck. Thankfully I didn't drop it far, I more like knocked it over, and I was able to fix this easily without any damage to the flesh. This actually also made it a little easier to mask the flesh on the broken bust. The highlights that are laid down on these are done with 3 tones, one being a mid-color and 2 increasingly brighter highlights. I do the same steps for the other bust, though with blue paint instead of pink. These tones, for both the blues and pinks, will be used on most of the remaining parts of these busts, though in reverse as I intended them to be sisters. After applying the last blue highlight, I stop for the night. With everything again dry, I start up the next day, now masking off everything except the ears. I did not have enough Silly Putty to mask off the entire body, head, and clothing, so I used some pieces from a small trash bag in conjunction with the Silly Putty. In retrospect, I should have left the headband that the ears are attached to also unmasked, as I come back to paint these with a brush the same colors as the ears later. The colors for the ears are done the same as the bustier. After applying the last blue highlight, I again stop for another night. With the ears now dry, I now mask off everything except the longer parts of the hair. These I'll also be painting with the same colors that I used previously, save now that they'll be done in reverse. The blue hair for the pink clothing bust, and pink hair for the blue clothing bust. The ears were a pain to mask off using the combination of silly putty and trash bag pieces, as the putty does not stick well to the flimsy plastic. I finish the last bit of airbrush work that I'll do, and I call it yet another night. Inside now, I finish off the bow tie and headband with, you guessed it, the same blues and pinks that I've used for the last several days of work. I did have to mix in a good amount of Golden's thick matte medium in with the Golden high flow acrylic paints, as they're very runny otherwise and can be difficult to control if not mixed with the thick medium. Once I got to this step, I was excited to finish the rest of the work, mostly because now I was done using the same colors over and over again. I still stuck with blues and pinks, but these are at least different, as I swapped to Army Painter's metallics for the earrings, lipstick, eyeshadow, and some highlights on the borders of the bustiers. I swap to the pink and repeat these steps on the other bust while the blue one dries. Now, for the base I wasn't sure what I was going to do, originally thinking just to use a large black circular base. Then my dumbass had the bright idea of, let's put them in a bubble bath, never you mind that they're wearing leather jackets. Fast forward and I've cut out a 4x8 inch rectangle of 1/4 inch Luan that I painted with a mix of metallic silver and golden steel before creating a border with strips of photo paper, scotch tape, and hot glue to seal it. I then dumped in a 1/4 inch of AK Interactive still water acrylic and sprinkled in some plastic beads to act as bubbles every 4 hours. I did this 3 times, doing so allowed the beads to sink at different depths, creating a more realistic look of bubbles. Honestly, I should have stopped here, as it looked pretty good like this. I decided to push it further, adding a mixture of Army Painter's Purple Alchemy speed paint with AK Interactive Snow Terrain and a little distilled water. This I spread around, hoping it would look like pink bubble bath, and again I sprinkled some of the beads atop this to act as additional bubbles on the surface. And this is the final result. ultimately I'm pretty happy with how the bust came out. If I wanted to take it further, I could have done a lot more brushwork, adding some highlights here and there, especially with adding a slight fur texture to the ears with hatching lines. But I'm quickly running out of time to get this out for Easter Sunday, because nothing says Easter like strippers wearing leather jackets in a tub. The base I'm very unhappy with. I think if I left it as it was before the snow texturing was added, I'd be more content with it. I also really need to put some kind of border around the base to make it look more finished. The photo paper did not separate easily and the edges look extremely rough as it is. But this is the first time I used AK Interactive Still Water and it was a good learning experience. I already have ideas on how to have a cleaner separation with the next use of it. And that'll bring this video to its inevitable end. I hope you learned something and that you have a happy Easter. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and if you like the content of this video and would like to see more, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm Jim with Working with Miniatures. I'm truly grateful for your time, and I bid you a fond farewell. Until the next video.